All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. All right, J-Rock is no longer fighting Jarrett Hurd for the, I think the IBF and WBA 154-pound title. Jarrett Hurd dropped out. That's a good move for Jarrett Hurd, and man, maybe hard luck for J-Rock. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Also, thank you to everybody that supports the channel on the Patreon. Thank you for people that support in the super chats and the live streams. Shout out to everybody in the LDBC. Now let's talk about this. J-Rock, Julian Williams out of Philadelphia, upset. Guess you can call that an upset. Jarrett Hurd and took the WBA and the IBF belts up off of him. Was it earlier this year? But earlier this year, and there was supposed to be an immediate rematch that was in the contract for Jarrett Hurd. Jarrett Hurd exercised that rematch clause, and they were supposed to be on and fighting, I do believe, sometime in, is it December? Regardless of when, that's not going to happen now. Because Jarrett Hurd got made better sense, had sense. It's like, nah, I'm not going to do that because all you're going to do is lose, man. You had to do some fundamentally, that was such a one-sided fight that, Jarrett Hurd needed to go and do something else, get his head right, get some defense, figure out how he was going to go about beating J-Rock. It wasn't going to happen in that rematch. Very smart move. Now, as a result of that, though, J-Rock is going to have to fight somebody else. And what I'm hearing is that it might be Erislandy Lara. Erislandy Lara is an entirely different ball of wax for J-Rock than Jarrett Hurd. And I'm telling you, man, I favor Erislandy Lara to beat Julian J-Rock Williams. The styles, those are entirely different styles where Jarrett Hurd is a come forward fighter who plays defense with his face and pretty much won the belt off of Lara by attrition. Same way that he beat Austin Trout. Two older fighters that he was able to just wear and grind down with his superior size, his ability to take a punch. And I think the Lara fight, even though he knocked down Lara in the 12th round to take the WBA belt, I think that Lara might have, I think I scored that fight for Lara. Definitely had it for Lara up until the 12th round, but it was a close fight. And hey, man, it is what it is. Your boy Jarrett Hurd won, but Jarrett Hurd is not remotely the same skill level as Erislandy Lara. He just was big enough and strong enough to impose his will on Erislandy Lara. Now, I know people familiar, definitely people familiar with this channel know that triangle theories in boxing don't work. Where you have one fighter if fighter A beat fighter B and fighter B beat fighter C, that doesn't mean that fighter A is going to beat fighter C. Right? If Joe Frazier beats Muhammad Ali and George Foreman beats Joe Frazier, that doesn't mean that George Foreman is going to beat Muhammad Ali. That's that triangle theory. Point A, point B, point C. That doesn't happen. That doesn't work a lot of times in boxing. In this situation, you have Jarrett Hurd beat Erislandy Lara. J-Rock beat Jarrett Hurd. That does not mean necessarily that J-Rock is going to be able to beat Erislandy Lara. Erislandy Lara, the southpaw with very, very good footwork, very good counterpuncher, a long reigning 154-pound champion, I think is in position, if they make this fight, to get his WBA title back and to get the IBF title to boot. If I'm J-Rock and I'm asked to make this fight, I, without a doubt, do what Jarrett Hurd did and make sure I got a rematch clause up in that contract, because it could very well go pop goes the weasel on him with Erislandy Lara. That southpaw stance. And now J-Rock, I do believe, is an excellent fighter, man. I think he's an excellent fighter. I just don't know, man. I don't know if he really has. I don't know if he has what it takes to beat Erislandy Lara. Erislandy Lara is the type of fighter that didn't get that got a lot of knocks on his name because he wasn't the most exciting fighter in the world. Because he will stay on the outside and he will box, and he's gonna make you come to him. He's gonna make you come at him, and then he's gonna counterpunch. He's gonna make you pay for making you count, for you taking the lead on him. And that's just an entirely different entirely different ball of wax than Jarrett Hurd, who's right there in your face. The J-Rock was just able to turn, tie up, turn, hit him on when he's on his way in, get on the inside, do some work on the inside, pivot out, move, spin away from him, and just, styles make fights. And Jarrett Hurd's style worked very well for J-Rock. That is not going to be the case, I don't believe, for Erislandy Lara. Now, what that means for the 154-pound division is that if this fight is made, the 154-pound division is what boxing needs to be. I swear, shout out to my man Nino Brown. The 154-pound division is what boxing needs to be. You have all of the top fighters in the 154-pound division fighting each other, with the only guy standing on the outside is that trash WBO belt. And I'm gonna call it a trash WBO belt and a trash WBO champion, Jaime Munguia, who ain't got any plans, and nobody's even asking to fight any of the other champions, which is why I think that it is reasonable if somebody wouldn't consider the WBO a major championship belt. And quite honestly, it took me a long time. I just was thinking about it. I was listening to Blood Boxing Talk, and I thought to myself, I used to not consider the WBO a major championship belt, but people said it so many times that it just became one. As you realize what a major championship belt is dependent upon who's gonna recognize it and who's not gonna recognize it. You have the two that were recognized for sure, the ones that came along in the early 60s, right, that have been the major championship belts all of my life, which are the WBA and the WBA and the WBC. By the way, if you really want to understand the history of the sanctioning bodies, wow. Scrapbook Boxing's got a video up on his page where he talks about Henry Armstrong and his fight for the 160-pound title, where he really lays that out, man, very, very beautifully. From the New York State Athletic Commission, the police organization that had a belt, then to the NYAC, and then how the NYAC changed into the NBA. The NBA turns into the WBA. Then the WBC comes along, and then in the early 1980s comes the IBF, and then back in like 1988 comes the WBO. So the WBO wasn't even established till the late 1980s, and I don't think anybody really started talking about it as a major championship belt until people just kept buying what Bob Arum was selling. And but if you just move Jaime Munguia out of that equation, you'll see that the WBC, these guys, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBA, all those champions will be very, very willing to fight one another. You have Erislandy, already have a unified belt in J-Rock. They're also trying to have a fight between Tony Harrison and Jermell Charlo, excuse me. Fully well that Jermell Charlo would fight J-Rock. I don't see there being any holdup whatsoever with that fight being made, which is distinctly different than what's going on over there in 160 pounds, and honestly, a little bit better than what's going on in the 147-pound division. But the 147-pound division does have a unification fight coming up with Aerosmith, with the IBF and the WBC. Then we'll see whether or not the WBA gets into the mix. Now that Keith Thurman's not involved, there's a chance that might happen. The WBO, once again, is sitting to the outside of that. And, a lot of people believe what Bob Arum is selling about trying to make that fight. But whenever I hear Bob Arum talking about him really wanting to make a fight, but insulting people at the same time, I don't believe it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section about this fight between J-Rock, Julian Williams, and Erislandy Lara. Who do you think is going to win? Do you think the fight's going to happen? Let me know in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.